Hey guys, welcome back to my channel and welcome back to another movie review. Tonight we're looking at a few movies, a couple of TV show episodes as well. Tonight's Sunday night, it's just around almost 8 p.m. I had a lovely day today. I went out to have lunch with a couple of my friends and we had some chicken wings and we had some poutine. Well, Canadians wouldn't actually call it poutine, but yeah, it was labeled as poutine. It was kind of filling, so I'm going to skip my dinner. I actually couldn't even finish my poutine. I left quite a lot of it back of my bowl. But yeah, the chicken wings were awesome and the poutine was not bad. It was pretty good. Poutine as they call it. Anyhow, coming back to the movie for tonight. Like I said, we've got a few reviews to go because I've been watching a few movies and I haven't got to finish the video reviews for them. So, Extremely Wicked, Shockingly Evil and Vile. Lengthy title, almost sounded a little funny to me, and I had heard a little bit about this movie, that it's based on the serial killer Ted BUndy, and it stars Zac Efron, not the actor that you would actually associate with being of a serial killer in a dramatic role, but I must say that he actually did pull it off quite a bit. I was kind of surprised. I've only seen him in a couple of movies, and for the longest time I associated him as the Backstreet Boys of Hollywood acting. That's the name I just came up with. Thank you very much. Hold the applause. Give me the money. If you want to use it, you need to go through me. Copyrighted by myself. Anyway, that's what I used to call him. Zac Efron is the Backstreet Boys of Hollywood actors. But I think I've seen him in 3 movies, that's it. I don't really know much about the guy, but I know that he normally plays in comedy roles. He's a guy who shows off his buff body in almost all the movies that I've seen him in, except for the first one. But yeah, I was actually surprised that he did actually show a lot of acting skills in this. Still, I'm not convinced with this particular actor, but yeah, this is a good stepping stone for him, I think, to move on to more serious roles and I guess more dramatic roles, and probably even I can see him in something like a DC or a Marvel. That's kind of what everybody wants to go for these days, so I can see him going in that direction as well. If he already hasn't signed on for something or is in the works for something, yeah, I think they'll actually probably start doing it around. Along with Zac Efron, who plays Ted Bundy, you've got Lily Collins, Phil Collins' daughter, as Kendall, his ex-girlfriend. Kaya Scodelario as Carol Ann Boone, who later married Ted Bundy. She was an old friend of his who later became his confidant and wife while he was in prison. And you also have John Malkovich as Edward Code, who is the presiding judge. And I think John Malkovich, in a smaller role, did an amazing job. I really liked his role in this movie. The title of the movie is a reference to the judgment that was done in the judgment when they're sentencing him to death. This is what the judge actually said, that he is extremely wicked, shockingly evil and vile. And the movie is based on The Phantom Prince, My Life with Ted Bundy, which is written by his former girlfriend Elizabeth Kendall, played here by, what's her name, Lily Collins. So what's the movie about? Basically, it's about how a charming, intelligent young man who sweeps a young woman, a young mother, off her feet, meets her at a bar. She's not really looking for anybody in a relationship at that particular moment. She doesn't think anything's going to happen, but he makes the moves on her, sweeps her off her feet, makes her fall in love with him. They start a relationship, they start living together, and he helps raise her young daughter, Liz, I guess. No, sorry, Molly. Liz is sorry, not Kendall, it's actually Liz Kendall. And however, this is, I think they met in 1969, he's a law student. By 1974, multiple women have been killed, and the description of the killer fits Ted Bundy. So he is caught by the cops. He's led to the police station where in the lineup they actually show and they ask a woman who is who was supposed to be one of the victims but escaped, and she picks him out of the police lineup claiming that he was the guy who kidnapped and threatened to kill her before she managed to escape. He is released on bail and he goes to Liz and tells her that it's a mix-up and all that stuff. When she reads the stuff, reads about the news in the papers. So he says that his picture was shown in the lineup before they actually met her. So he looks familiar to her. I'm reading from my notes over here. And he keeps saying he is being set up. So he's found of being guilty of aggravated kidnapping and sentenced to a minimum of 15 years in the Utah State Prison. However, there's another case against him in Colorado, and the Colorado authorities charge him with the murder of a woman called Karen Campbell in 1977, which is in Aspen, Colorado. So he's extradited. I wouldn't say extradited, yeah, but he's turned over to the Colorado authorities, and he's taken in handcuffs and shackles to Colorado. While he's there, he practices trying to escape from the courthouse. I thought those scenes were actually well done. And he jumps out of the courthouse from a second-story window and runs away, escapes to the mountains, but he's recaptured after 6 days. Liz visits him and ends their relationship in tears, says she can't continue with this. He escapes again by breaking through the gap in the ceiling, plans everything accordingly. So this guy is extremely intelligent. That's what I got. That was led to believe. And then he escapes to Florida, and in the Florida State University there is a sorority house where a couple of women were murdered and 2 other women were attacked. Ted is identified and arrested, and he tries to contact Liz once again, but she hangs up on him. However, and this is what I find fascinating and stupid and ridiculous, is that he starts getting a following of young women who are fascinated by him and are charmed by him. And it's always, this is going to be controversial, it's always white American women. I do not know what's wrong with some of you that you actually fall for fucking assholes like Ted Bundy. You are stupid. Absolutely stupid. You are fallen for looks and charms, so-called charms, by the way. I do not understand the kind of women who actually fall for this. So anyway, I saw a couple of clips where they actually said he's quite dreamy, he's blah blah blah, all that stuff, like really really dumb kind of bitches who actually should get captured by somebody like this. I don't know. They should actually learn that this kind of creep, this kind of an asshole needs to be killed. So while this is happening, we actually meet her a little earlier in the movie. Ted is visited by an old friend of his called Carol Ann Boone, played by Kaya Scodelario. I don't know, I'm butchering her name, Scodelario, I don't know how you pronounce it. And she believes him to be innocent, and she moves to Florida to get closer to him. She's had a thing for him for a long time. They don't actually mention whether they were actually having a thing before he met Liz, but it's kind of implied. But she still has a thing for him, so he takes advantage of the fact that she's still fascinated by him or still in love with him, and she becomes his confidant. They become very close, and they begin a relationship once again. He still tries to reach out to Liz, who's watching his trials on television, and we come to know that she actually is feeling quite guilty because she's the one who actually gave his name to Seattle authorities in 1975 after seeing the drawing of him as the description by witnesses. So Ted proposes to Carol, and they get married. Again, another stupid woman. So finally, there's too many evidences against him in court, including the matching of his teeth impressions on one of the victims' buttocks. They actually take impressions of his teeth and match it against the impressions of his bite wounds on her body. And the jury convicts him of the murders of those 2 women, 3 counts of attempted first-degree murder, 2 counts of burglary. The judge, who is actually kind of impressed by him because of his intelligence and the way he defends himself in court, he becomes his own counsel. He convicts him to be for the death sentence and sentenced to be carried by electrocution. It's supposed to be done by execution by electrocution. 10 years pass and Liz visits him in prison. That's one of the first scenes they also show in the movie. And she takes a photograph given to him by a detective. She wants the truth from him. And she then tells Ted, one of his decapitated victims, and she tells him to admit it for the first time to her. He initially says he's innocent, blah, 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 all that stuff. But finally he writes in one of the most chilling scenes in this particular movie. He writes on the misted window of the visiting room, he writes hacksaw, basically admitting that he's the one who killed her. So she leaves the prison in shock, and she's remarried to, oh yeah, that was actually something I forgot to mention. What's his name? Boy, this is a blast from the past. I've never seen him since a couple of movies that I've seen of this guy when he was a young actor, Haley Joel Osment, that's the name. So he's the new husband for Liz, and she goes back to him and her daughter, and she's finally able to leave her old life behind, and says, she's still in shock, but she says, she's okay. Sorry about that. And the movie ends with showing the real Ted Bundy, some couple of his interviews, and the fact that he was executed in January 1989. He was age 42 at the time. He confessed finally to over 30 murders, but we don't know whether he murdered more women. And his ashes were finally scattered in the Cascade Mountains, where he had deposited the remains of some of his victims. So that's that. As a movie, I seem to say this a lot. I mean, I am fascinated with the storyline. I'm not fascinated with the character per se, but I am fascinated with the fact that how can a human being go about murdering, raping, decapitating? I mean, it happens quite a lot, but how do you do that? I mean, how do you get to that stage? So I thought he did a I wouldn't say phenomenal job. He did a really good job. He convinced me, and I would say once again, stupidity of women who want to marry these delightful characters on death row. They fall in love with him and other such characters, the crazy women. I'm yet to see, but I'm pretty sure there already are a set of men who would want to marry women on death row. So equal opportunity. I think both sides, they're really, really dumb. This one bitch actually calls him dreamy and anyway, to me, these are the things that actually stand out. I mean, when I watch something like this, I think I want to watch some documentaries on these serial killers. I like the law aspect of it, the detective policing and all that stuff, the search, the hunt for the serial killer, rather more than what ticks them off, what makes them tick rather. Sorry. And the movie overall, I would say, is kind of showing him more to be even though it's entertaining, it shows him more as a romantic kind of hero, not hero, but romantic kind of figure. Because when he's with Liz, he's a certain type. When he's with women, he's trying to charming and stuff. So I think they showed that way too much. Probably that was the way that he is, or he was, sorry. But at the same time, they don't really go into the darker parts of it. They don't really show him attacking women, killing his victims and all that stuff. So I think it was kind of a pale imitation of what it could have been, and it's kind of rather tame for a movie of this kind of content. So I would give it a 7 out of 10. It's not, I think his role is pretty memorable, I guess. There's one more actress who's in this movie who she's not the conventional beauty, but she's absolutely amazing. Her name is Angela Sarafine. She's also in Westworld, the TV series on HBO, and I've seen her, I think, in a couple of other stuff. She's amazing. So she plays a best friend to Liz. And you have Jim Parsons as well. good old Sheldon Cooper. He plays a prosecuting attorney in Florida who's pitted against this guy. And surprisingly, big surprise for me because I didn't know this was actually happening. James Hetfield, lead singer and rhythm guitarist of Metallica, plays a police officer in Utah who arrests Bundy for the first time, I guess. And there's one song from Metallica called "The Four Horsemen," which is actually featured in the movie. So, yeah, 7 out of 10. It's not bad. It's not very memorable, except for me for a couple of the other things, like for example, seeing James Hetfield in a movie as a cop, and a couple of the actors in it, which I would say Zac Efron and John Malkovich kind of stand out. Lily Collins as well, I think she does a pretty good job, but overall, I think they could have done a lot more because you don't actually see the horrific things that he's actually done. So, 7 out of 10, not bad, but not very memorable. It could have been done much better. Anyway, that's it for now. Thank you and take care.